So Ben, thanks so much for joining me today, and thanks for having me out to see everything that FoodMaven is doing, learn about what FoodMaven is doing for the industry and for society and the food world in general. I did want to talk to you a little bit about corporate culture, because in the meat processing industry, we have some superstar companies in corporate culture world, and some big companies that do some cool things, some little companies that do even cooler things. But it's always a situation where there are companies that can learn from what to do and what not to do about corporate culture. So let's talk about FoodMaven from the standpoint of you're a fast-growing company. You just started up in 2016. Talk about the growth of the employee base. Has it been fast? Have you added a bunch of folks? And as you've expanded, what has that done to your employee base in terms of size?
Absolutely. So like any startup, we have fits and starts on it. So we're now over 70 employees. When I joined a year ago, we were at around 30 on it. So it's been some great growth on it. A lot of those employees have come in through our acquisition as well. So that's always an interesting part, because now you're bringing people into the culture and helping them to understand it and potentially bring some of their piece along with it as well. I think the key thing for all of ours is that we want to make sure that all the folks on our team really feel the same connection to the mission that the rest of us do. I mean, it was one of the things that attracted me to FoodMaven, and I know attracts all the folks that are part of our team, is they see this opportunity to be part of something that's making an impact for the environment, making an impact for the community, making an impact for society in general. And when folks have that connection with it, it's really powerful, and it helps to give everyone kind of that same North Star that they're heading to.
So we're here at Green Spaces, a little office, facility. It's very, sustainable, green, all that the cool buzzwords, and FoodMaven is doing its part, obviously, to minimize food waste and things like that. If you took just a random, non-scientific poll of your employees, would they feel like they're working for a food company or an environmental sustainability company? What do you think?
I think what you'd see is people think that they work for a sustainable company, right? And it is around food, and a lot of it is actually not anything new, right? If you look at the food industry 100 years ago, it was about being sustainable, because if you weren't, you didn't have any crops, you didn't have any cows, you didn't have anything left anymore, right? And that's something that, unfortunately has gotten lost a little along the way through the industrialization of everything else. And so we're trying to figure out, how can you take the good parts of that industrialization and then add in technology and add in a different way of doing it to truly make a sustainable business, so that the people who make our food, whether that's the people who grow it or the people who cook it, that they can be successful. Because I think we all know that that's a tough thing on both sides on that. And so we really want to be there for them and help them be successful in the long run.
And you mentioned the acquisitions, building the employee base. Talk about melding the corporate culture from the acquisitions, for example, Anderson Beef being one. That's a straight fruit meat processing company, right? It's not a sustainable company, or at least it's not buzzword wise. It's sustainable because it's meat, but still. Talk about how you folded those folks in, how you got them sold on the mission of FoodMaven overall, even though they're still doing a lot of the same things they did in terms of meat processing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the first things is, when we're looking at the acquisitions, that's actually one of our criteria, right? Do we think that there's a element of a growth mindset, that people are open to change and maybe not doing things a lot differently, but thinking differently on that piece? And then, once we know that, yeah, we think that's a good fit, it's really helping to introduce what we do to them. And it's amazing, right? People in the food industry know that there's waste. They know there's inefficiency. And so talking about, we're going to try to do something to solve it and help make everybody else successful at the same time, that's something that people connect with on it well. And I think they see that, and when they see the difference that it can make, it helps give them a sense of purpose in what they do.
You mentioned, the meat industry and really ag in general as being sustainable, one of the original sustainable businesses, right? And I just did a story where the processor was talking about the farmers and why would they avoid being sustainable. They're trying to hand their farm down to the next generation. They're not going to destroy the land. Does that message, which I think is starting to get out to consumers a little bit better about from the ag side, but does that message work its way into what you guys do? And is there a space for that? Does that help your message in terms of minimizing food waste and maybe bringing some sustainability to that end of the process?
I think it absolutely does, right? Once folks realize, and as you said, they're starting to realize it more and more, that our farmers, our ranchers are doing everything they can to have a sustainable business, but at the same time, because of issues with oversupply, because of issues with cake product and the rest, it's really hard for them. It's really hard for them to keep their businesses going. So if we can talk about how we can help them capture more revenue, then that's a great story and something people really connect with overall. And then at the same time, when they can start to really understand where their food's coming from and have that connection to it, that's something that we're seeing consumers really start to have more and more demand for. And the brands realize that. They want to connect with it. They want to connect with people who can help do that for them and then ultimately help connect them to those ranchers and farmers.
Does FoodMaven have any plans to help connect the consumers to what you guys do down the road, or is right now it's just figuring out the best ways to do business and help eliminate this food?
So we really think a sustainable food ecosystem is a community, right? And so that ultimately does go to the consumers. So we actually do quite a bit of work with our food service providers to help provide material around who their suppliers are so they can get that out to their consumers. So when you're coming into a restaurant, you understand, oh, this restaurant, the chef is doing this to help be more sustainable. They're doing this to support this farmer or this rancher, because we believe the consumers are absolutely a part of this solution.